Hey there, cats and kitties. I am the Blues Man, Johnny Blues, and with this video I'll be discussing my thoughts on episode 21 of the anime series Log Horizon. And I was actually quite surprised in the opening of this episode that weeks have gone by since the last episode, and by the end of it, we're talking a few solid months have passed. This episode was really sweeping with the flow of time, but it was all about the finer details, even though we had this sort of overbearing crux of this Gala ball, this dance full of waltzing and everything like that being basically the main focus of the episode. The finer details, like all of the best laid plans of Uber strategist Shiro himself, are where the real crux of the story was. And I have to also note that I misspoke in my previous video where I said that they had defeated successfully the Goblin King. It was actually the Goblin General. The Goblin King still has yet to be defeated. I knew that, but for some reason I said Goblin King when I was talking about the defeat being successful. But in any case, what I find interesting to do with this whole Goblin Horde attack is that Shiro's plan to defeat them involves driving the Goblin Hordes back and keeping them contained to Xantleaf, and doing so by maintaining a steady flow of, quests for adventurers to basically go out on. And so by doing so, he's going to be whittling away at the Goblin Hordes, eventually making a beeline for the Goblin King himself. And it should be interesting to see how this is going to proceed with some of the other revelations in this episode. We find out that Susukino, where they basically went to save Sarara, has remained under the control of 200 adventurer barbarians. Those guys we saw that went on the attack were very sort of threatening toward, Shiro and his crew. And so that begs the question, are the people of the land who are still contained within Susukino being held as slaves? Are they being tortured? Could that have ramifications on the prosperity between the people of the land and the adventurers as we see it? I thought it was also interesting that, basically Shiro, as he's sort of tuning around, trying to keep away from the ball, he overhears a cloaked woman talking about the story of a wizard who brought back to life a person of the land ages past. And I really couldn't get a handle on whether she was actually talking in the past tense, like this was something that happened ages ago, or maybe she was retelling the story of what Shiro had done, saving the life of Rundle House. I don't really know exactly whether it was meant to imply that there's some kind of repetitive time loop going on in this world, all of the Matrix, but this actually coincides with another big revelation, which involves Shiro meeting back up with Regan, and he's told of this great shift in magic apart from the one that Regan felt when he basically brought back Rundle House. He used that world-class magic, and that's fascinating to me, because so far as we know, Shiro's the only one with this knowledge other than Regan, and Regan tells him that to the West, much like the world-class magic he utilized to save Rudy's life, he sensed another great level of magic being used. The magic in all likelihood is involving another adventurer in the city of Minami. Is this going to be somebody that Shiro knew once before in the debauchery tea party? Is it going to be someone who is his equal, or perhaps will see him as a nemesis? There's a lot of things that, are implied by the use of this magic. And what's more, an event akin to the Return of the Goblin King is now taking effect in the city of Minami. It's the Demon Festival of Suzaku Gate. And I have to wonder, for better or for worse, perhaps Shiro will use this as another means by which to unite the world under a common goal or threat. But, could it become a threat itself is basically where I'm going with that thinking. And speaking of that, with Shiro's relationship with the people of the land, with his own adventurers, he's basically been keeping in hiding, been keeping to the shadows in this particular episode, and Nori is overhearing a lot of repeated slams against him. A lot of the things being said are in a negative connotation, that Shiro can't be trusted, perhaps he's manipulating things. When the whispers of death's effect on memory finally start making the rounds as released by Shiro through the crowds of Akibahara, you still hear people talking about, well, why did he keep it hidden? He would be the one to do it, if anyone, and it makes me wonder if he's, somehow solidifying himself more as an enemy to his own adventurers than a hero, like we know him to be. But essentially, where Shiro may be faltering with his own adventurers, it seems like he's at least representing the round table with the people of the land in a more positive light, continuing to make headway along the lines of trade agreements and such, giving a sense that there is a unification to be had between their peoples. Yet that's not entirely the case, as we see with, basically Callan confronting Lanessia and being told by him that her actions, requesting the aid of the adventurers against the impending goblin threat, are to rest on her shoulders alone, meaning that the people of the land did not, nor would they, act as though they had requested such aid, and thus will not reimburse the adventurers for any of their efforts. This is quite, monumental a shift, if you ask me, because instead they're basically going to be sending Lanessia, constrained though it may be, as an ambassador to Akibahara and to the Round Table, sort of being the representative of the people of the land, and she is now going to be required to make personal showings of gratitude and thanks where applicable from here on out. It's basically all her fault. But, as Krusty notes over the waltz, because of that big dance, the Gala ball that was the overarching presence for this episode, he tells Lanessia that, this is going to allow her that 3 days a week of lazing about and being lethargic that she so dreams of having, amidst the responsibilities that will no doubt be, in tow. But one final note with this Gala ball, I just thought it was absolutely awesome that we see the very sheepish Akatsuki, decked out in her big ball gown essentially and being somewhat embarrassed about it. Basically, I've had this sense that she had wanted to test out her dancing skills with Shiro, and she's kind of sheepishly trying to bring it up several times in the episode. And Shiro's not really responsive. He just wants to get out of there. He doesn't want to be put on the spot and everything. But it all comes down to Shiro and Akatsuki sharing somewhat of a dance. And of course, we have Marielle talking about bringing up, as the months fly by toward the end of the episode, another festival. A festival, she's already had one in summer, she's going to have another one as they're in October. It will all be interesting, and yeah, so I loved this episode. I loved all the details that were kind of shoehorned into it, that you had to really, blink and you'll miss it, pay attention for. And I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments below. Please realize I won't be able to respond, but I still love hearing everyone's comments and thoughts on the series, what you thought of all the minutiae in this episode, about, the revelations therein and everything like that, and where you think it might be going. So, otherwise, that'll be it for me. I hope this video finds you well, and I'll catch you later. Peace.